In this presentation, we'll take a look at some basic considerations, that is, considerations to begin to work through as you begin to think about implementing a badge system. What's in a name? This may seem like it may be overthinking the concept, but different names will resonate differently for different users. It's important to know the target audience. For students, especially undergraduates, badge may be just fine. If students are familiar with gaming conventions, this will be recognizable. For faculty, the word badge may be too game-like or even seen as immature. For faculty development, something like micro-credential may be more palatable. For career-based courses or professional development, micro-credential might be a better choice as well. Units could be used for students or faculty, depending on how those link towards a certificate, etc. Another consideration is how to explain pathways or routes to certain endpoints. Is the badge or micro-credential itself the endpoint? Or are several badges stackable to earn a larger credential, a certificate, or a macro-credential, for instance? In the image, there's a depiction of a map. This is from Texas Wesleyan University, and they have some nice imagery of the map and a defined path or journey to different lands or competencies. Participants gather stamps for the badge, and they end up in their passports. Full passports demonstrate various destinations having been visited or certain competencies demonstrated. You could use trails and destinations. Visuals can be quite imaginative. Again, though, it's important to consider your audience when designing imagery. Badges should carry with them an understanding of the competencies they represent and the levels at which the learner has demonstrated. So to begin, think about the competencies the badge may represent. These are especially important because they generally link to claims that you, the institution, are making regarding the student's learning. Additionally, the assessment efforts to determine demonstrated competencies should be well-defined and well-constructed. We need to ensure that assessments are valid and reliable. In thinking about the creation of badges, there are technical considerations. Here are just a few to think about. Tagging, meta tagging. This allows badges to carry the information previously discussed. What competencies, at what levels, by whose standards, etc. You'll also want to consider the outward design. What will the badge actually look like? Who will design them? Tagging can also allow for linkage to various badging sites and systems. See the link included in the notes of this slide for additional information on design. In addition to the technical function of the badges, remember to keep in mind frameworks around the badges. Motivation and value to the learner comes up again. Also consider, what is badgeable? If everything can earn a badge, for instance, attending an event, then the badges may become less valuable to the earners, and perhaps even to the consumers who look at badges for hiring criteria, grading events, etc. So it's important to set some expectations of what sort of events can even earn a badge. Again, think in terms of competencies and behaviors, skills, knowledge that demonstrate competency. Everhart et al. 2016 summarized the needs of defining badging elements in this slide nicely. It's important to define a common language and orient audiences with the language and terminology. Again, what the badge or micro-credential is called is an important concept. Once determined, it's important to stay consistent with the naming convention. Finally, learners should be able to identify a clear path or map towards badges or to stacked certificates and credentials. Learners, whether students or faculty or staff, should also know how the badge links to educational paths and programs or to career advancements. In the next few slides, we'll look at some options that badges can represent. First, among other things, badges can be used to track development for students or faculty or users in other forums, on the job, for example. Badges can also serve to recognize and display expertise. This can be helpful for directories, mentoring, etc. As we think of this aspect, important considerations include making badges purposeful, that every learner has equal opportunities to earn badges, and that badges are grouped into topics. Remember, try to avoid badging for the sake of badging. In addition to recognizing expertise, badges can also recognize levels of expertise. Is the learner just beginning, or is he or she an expert in a badged area? Consider how the levels would be recognizable in or on the badge. While we have largely focused on badging for students in online higher education, recognize that there are multiple uses, and faculty development can be an additional area. Badges for faculty development can be used for rank and promotion or tenure, can move a group towards a more formal community of learners, or they can be used for mentoring or peer reviews. Badges can also be used to recognize internal or external professional development activities. One of the decisions that will need to be made when thinking about implementing badging is what platform or engine to use. The market is growing, and there are several platforms out there. Refer to the resource guide for a review of 4 platforms that may help you get started: Jive, Credly, Mozilla, and Fidelis. Each platform reviewed had to have at least some minimal abilities, which are listed on this slide. In addition to determining a platform, perhaps the most important step in implementing a badging system is to gain buy-in from key constituents. Some initial items to consider are strategy, cost, communication, and stakeholders. I'm sure you can think of more. Note that in the review of the platforms offered, cost was not reviewed. This, of course, will be an important factor. You'll want to understand what budget may or may not be available for the efforts. One important implementation area is to consider conducting a pilot. Piloting allows for a smaller group to go through and test the concepts as well as the technical aspects of tagging, etc., and of a badging platform or system. In summary, we've reviewed some basic considerations of starting up a badging initiative at an institution. The more you can plan up front and gain critical support, the better a pilot and/or full implementation should go. As you think about where to begin, these areas should provide you with important questions and considerations. Just remember, you don't, and probably shouldn't, have to go it alone. You may wish to get a focus group or a committee together to consider implementation options. Faculty presence is key as well.